Ladies, gentlemen, and nightfarers of all ages, the Everjail meta has been sort of dominating Nightreign for the last couple of weeks since people realized just how effective it is. But what if I told you we now have a surprisingly equivalent strategy for solo runs where the Everjails don't pop off quite as hard, but also just a way to make the Everjail stacking even stronger when playing in multiplayer as well. Today we're going to dive into 3 builds for Nightreign, one of which is applicable to most any Nightfarer, one of which is a touch more specific but still works for multiple, and then one that is hyper-specific to one character but very potent in the right situation. First up today then, we have a build that works extremely well for the majority of characters in the game. There's been a ton of talk in the community recently about a specific relic effect that has gone mostly under the radar for ages until people realize just how good it is. This is called Improved Initial Standard Attack. I'm not sure who the first person was to find out just how good this is, but today we're going to be taking our own spin on making the most out of this. This is one of the more vague effects in the game, but the reality is that it improves the first light attack of a chain. It works on one-handed attacks, two-handed attacks, and even power stancing can do this too. The only real exceptions are jump attacks do not count, and attacks that follow a dodge or come out of a sprint do not count either. So your basic R1 or L1 attack from neutral with non-spellcasting weapons. This is an attack that you use a lot by default on melee characters, or even on Iron Eye with his bow, which is the character that I honestly think that this makes the biggest difference for. Whether you realize it or not, you use this attack all the time, but what you may not know is that it's super easy to forcibly only do this attack, so you have this actual attack buff all the time. If you wait just a beat before your attacks instead of doing follow-up parts of the combo, you'll just repeat that first attack over and over, the one that this buffs. You can also play around 2 weapons, one in each hand, and then just alternate R1 and L1 to use the first attack for each weapon. This works especially well with Iron Eye, which is why he's the character I think this is the best for, honestly, because you can just hold one bow in each hand and alternate R1, L1, firing each bow one shot at a time, which counts as the initial standard attack for each bow back to back. This is barely slower than spamming shots from a single bow, and every shot gets the improved initial standard attack bonus, which makes it go from 35 damage at level 1 up to 50. When you play like this, you can trigger the relic effect super consistently, and here comes the fun part, the actual value of it. The relic effect is actually a 13% multiplicative damage increase, and it stacks. This means if you have one of the relic equipped, your initial standard attacks do 13% more damage. But if you have 2 of them equipped, it multiplies not only the base damage, but also the bonus damage from the initial effect. So instead of a total of 26% bonus damage, it's actually around 27.7% if you have both on. Add on a third version of the same relic effect, and instead of going to 39% total damage bonus, you get around a 44.3% damage bonus, which is slightly more than if you had the Everjail relic and completed the maximum number of Everjails that can spawn in an expedition, which is 8. But of course, that means that you don't have to do the Everjails to get that damage bonus, but also it is at the cost of 3 effects. It's not just 1. So what's the best way of using this? What's the best way of intermingling these together? Well, there's a new guaranteed relic from the Sovereign Sigil shop that has this effect on it for free, which makes it easy to build around to begin with, as it gives you 1 relic to start with. Then you want at least 1 relic that has the improved initial standard attack effect on it as well, which has to be from your own RNG collection. There's no secondary guaranteed one for this, so we go for 2 of these then. Then from here, if you are playing fully solo, you could just use 3 copies of the same effect, just another initial standard attack bonus for your 3rd relic, and then any bonus slots on your relics as well, just being more standard good stuff. From what I've heard from the data miners though, you sadly cannot have both improved initial standard attack and Everjail damage scaling on the same relic, which does bring me to my next point, which is that when you are playing in multiplayer, I heavily recommend doing only 2 improved initial standard attack relics, and having your 3rd relic slot being an Everjail damage scaling focused relic, either the guaranteed one, which is this one, or an RNG one instead, with the main reasoning being that the Everjail scaling is something that works for every character, and that every character generally wants to use, honestly. And as long as other players are using it as well, it's sort of a waste to not have it, because it lines your goals. It makes you want to do the same things. And also, if you all start with a key, completing 3 Everjails is really easy, and 3 Everjails is the exact amount where the Everjail effect becomes more valuable than the improved initial standard attack effect. Because both of these things, though, are multiplicative bonuses, they actually scale together. They synergize if you have both effects, and they work really well. So for multiplayer, 2 times initial standard attack, then 1 of the Everjail bonuses. When playing solo, you can drop the Everjail for even more initial standard attack goodness, but this means that you can now also have 2 out of the 3 as guaranteed shop relics, which makes this very easy to set up, much more than looking for all 3 slots to have improved initial standard attack. Then next up for today, we have something for casters that functions surprisingly similarly, though I would say this mostly applies to Recluse, more so than the others, by which I mean a stacking multiplicative damage bonus relic effect. Casters can't take advantage of the initial standard attack damage increasing effect that we just talked about, but the somewhat equivalent bonus for casting would be improved X sorcery, meaning things like improved glint blade sorcery, improved thorn sorcery, improved giant's flame incantations, because incantations also count, or my personal favorite among these, improved crystalline sorcery. This is another thing that started going around once people realized how good improved initial standard attack was, as it led to more testing with other effects, and this one, as it turns out, is really solid too. One of the easiest, most consistent to find powerful spells in the game is Shattering Crystal. This is a crystalline sorcery, hence why the crystalline sorceries are my favorite type to boost through these relic effects. This improved sorcery relic effect, whichever one that you choose, is a 12% multiplicative damage increase to that sorcery type, and again, they stack together on multiple relics. So if you have a second relic that has the same effect, you aren't doing only 24% increased damage, you're doing closer to 25.5% increased damage. If you have a third relic of the same effect, you aren't doing 36% damage, you're doing around 40.4% increased damage. So again, this really scales up very quickly, and then your entire goal from that point is to find a staff with a good spell that matches your chosen sorcery school, whichever that is, with Crystallian again being the most consistently reliable. When playing solo, stacking 3 of these effects together works absolutely fine, and when playing multiplayer, like with the previous build, I do recommend using 2 of this relic effect together with the Everjail attack power increasing effect, because your teammates will likely be running the Everjail effect anyways, and especially if they are running the relic that gives the free Stone Sword keys as well, and 3 Everjails is once again enough to make that effect more valuable than 1 extra sorcery boost. But these effects stack and synergize together once again, so that is a pure gain to use them together. The main reason that I say this is more for Recluse than any of the other casting characters then, is without super high RNG, you are unlikely to have one of these effects that you want with FP boosting stuff as well. Recluse is the only caster that doesn't feel really weird to play without a massive FP pool to me, as she has essentially infinite FP regen. So it does also work for Duchess or for Revenant if you want to use it with incantations instead, but it works best for Recluse as the one who can sustain her own FP without the need for relic effects to help out. Then third today we have a setup that is just a ton of fun and comfort, which is an Ash of War spamming build for Raider specifically, who isn't a character that is often played this way, as there are usually just better characters for Ash of War spamming, and there's better things that Raider can do. That said, the main reasoning behind this choice is that you can get relics that give your starting armament Prayerful Strike as an Ash of War. This Ash of War led to some really silly stuff in base Elden Ring as a game, with the main reason being that it has a bunch of poise on it, it does a ton of stagger damage to the enemy when you hit them with it, and it heals you for 30% of your maximum health when you hit with it, no matter how much that is. This means you can just sort of tank through attacks if you have the FP and poise to sustain it, and of course the HP pool to make it worth it. Enter Raider. To be clear, this is not the meta Raider setup, there are plenty of other things that have higher output potential, but this is a really fun alternative comfort build. The main idea is we put Prayerful Strike on the starting weapon. If you find a better Prayerful Strike weapon through the run, then even better, you can change, feel free. Otherwise, just get some smithing stones to set your starting weapon up to purple. Then you have a big healing bonk stick. For our other of relic effects on this one, you want the Dark Knight of the Wise relic from defeating Everdark Gnoster if you do that in time, as this has both maximum FP increased, which is an extra 25 maximum FP, but also FP restored on successive attacks. This gives us a way to actively regenerate FP mid-combat to let us use Prayerful Strike even more as a result. And if you also happen to hit a Sorcerer's Rise along the way, you can get even more maximum FP from the third relic effect on this. Then for your third slot, you want your classic permanent attack increase after each Everjail completed. They're just way too strong to ignore, and anything that you can get on a relic alongside that is also good through RNG of course, just makes it better. This one here is quite possibly the best singular relic in my entire collection right now, and I absolutely love it. All in all, this build is the simplest one today by far. It's a bit off meta, but it's also really effective even so in its own way, and it's just incredibly fun, honestly. That pretty much does it for the day then, everyone. 3 builds that are absolutely killing it in Elden Ring Nightreign right now. We're using some guaranteed relics, some relics that require RNG, but giving you a new thing to play around and focus on regardless of your preferred Nightfare within the game. We've got 3 weeks here of repeat Everdark bosses, so now is the time to really just sort of experiment and try out new playstyles or builds to see if there is anything that works better than expected, or something that you just like more than you thought you would. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and hopefully you enjoy using these setups power-ups in the game as well. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.